to the Seahawks 360 podcast, a SportsEthos production. We will look at the Seahawks from every angle, every week. I'm Candace Higgins.
And I'm Tino Ganasius.
And it is a pleasure to talk Hawks with you. Guys, we have quite a bit to go over today. So we haven't talked with Tino in a minute. So I'm going to get Tino's thoughts on just what happened at the Bengals game. We'll talk a little about that. But then, of course, we're going to talk about this Arizona game, which I think is a pretty important game in terms of defining who the Seahawks are. But before we get into that, Tino, just sort of what were your overall thoughts, takeaways, and for the Bengals game? And, you know, maybe your concerns, if you have any, if they roll over to this week.
I think the Bengals game was a matchup of two, in my opinion, two top 10 teams in the NFL. I think it was a well-played game. I think the Seahawks were in it to the end. I don't agree with the I guess, subsequent trashing of Geno Smith. I think that one interception was clearly DK Metcalf's fault.
Yeah.
The one on the corner pattern, I think, could he have thrown a better ball? Yes. But I think Geno actually played really well. And I think what that game says to me, it's not the loss. It's the fact that Seattle is going to be in games with anyone that they play and are as capable of any team in the NFL of making the playoffs and going far. To me, it was a positive. You go on the road to a place like Cincinnati against what I consider to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, who has tremendous weapons and a very good defense. I think the Seahawks showed out, to be honest with you. I know they didn't win, but in my opinion, the Seahawks played incredibly well. Kenneth Walker is proving to be what I consider a top probably 8 to 12 running back in the NFL. The defense played well. We talked about Devon Witherspoon. He's proven out to be a top corner. Like, to me, these are all great signs. You're not going to win on the road against, teams that are top 5, top 10. It's just not going to happen. So, or not often at least. So no, to me, it was all positive. Could they have done stuff better? Absolutely. Could Geno, that second interception, could he have thrown a better pass? I think so, but they moved the ball. I don't know. I came away from it thinking, okay, this is a very good team that, coupled with the injuries on the 49ers, this team is going to compete for the NFC West. That was what I walked away with.
Wow. That is the most optimistic perspective I have heard all week. I should have talked to you sooner.
Right. Right.
That is really optimistic. Now, I'm not as high on Geno's performance as you are, but I did go back and watch it, and there are some things that it was just tough for him. And that O-line was bad. And so, there is only so much you could ask. You would love for Geno to make a little bit more magic, but I do understand that he was still dealing with that injury to his knee and to his ankle. And I think that sort of limited him some. It seemed to have him a little bit more frazzled than normal. One thing I generally always praise Geno for is his pocket presence and his ability to navigate that pressure a lot better. But it's been happening often. So I guess I don't know if it's a thing where after so much time, the dam sort of breaks, if you will, in terms of being able to navigate that. I also think that Shane, since they got Charles Cross, called a game that was more would put people on islands a little bit more often. And I think you saw the results of that. They did not use the tight ends as much, trying to get JSN involved some, which they did a little bit more successfully. But I think overall, I agree with you. It was frustrating, to say the least, not to get in the end zone, with as many chances as they had. I think I still come away pretty frustrated from that. So I can't say I'm as positive overall as you are, but it seemed like it was a variety of things. If it wasn't Geno, it was the play call. If it wasn't the play call, it was, like you said, DK, like completely just
quit. He just quit on a route.
Yeah, giving up on a route.
He quit on the route, and you can't, on an in-breaking pattern, you cannot quit on the route, right? That was purely on DK. What I will say too is, Geno Smith is paid as a quarterback and regarded as a quarterback who is going to play very well within the system, is going to be poised, is going to be a leader. but he's not, he's not going to be the kind of guy that can make something out of nothing, right? He
Right.
still needs to be in the right system for him, and he still needs his skilled position players and his line to perform. He's
Yep.
not Patrick Mahomes, right? And he's not paid as such, and he's not regarded as such. And I think in this game, with the type of pressure that specifically Trey Hendrickson can provide
Mm-hmm.
On the Bengals' part, it's tough for him. He's not going to make chicken salad out of chicken. You know what? Like that's
Yeah.
not who Geno Smith is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
He's a
think,
very good, not great quarterback.
right,
And maybe that's the frustration with some fans. Maybe they expect him to be great. But
right.
I agree with you that they're not paying him to be great. In fact,
No,
they're barely paying him. If he doesn't meet his metrics, then he won't get much money. Like he's
right,
not going to hit 35 million at the pace he's on right now.
right,
So then you come away fine with whatever you get from him because it's fair value. It's not like the Daniel Jones contract, right? Where he's
right.
playing abysmally and he's far underperforming for that. And I do think there's opportunity for Geno to come around. I keep really hoping that each new week we will get the opportunity to see the O-line healthy. And
Mhm.
it just seems like that must be a far-fetched dream.
Well, I'll tell you what, I wish that they would have gone with the same. I know Charles Cross was back, and I understand his value and
Yeah.
that they wanted to open up the offense a little more, but I wish they would have just stuck with, the tight ends staying in
Yep.
to help. The same stuff they did when it was Curran and Forsyth. I wish they would have stuck with some of that stuff because
Yeah.
it seemed to be working. And just because Cross is back doesn't mean he's at 100%.
Yeah.
And the Bengals have a ferocious, as we saw, ferocious pass rush.
Mhm.
So that was an adjustment that I don't feel like they made in this game that I think they could have. I would have gone with a lot more, tight end help, maybe some running back help in terms of chipping or in terms of protection, because Geno was he was getting annihilated in that game.
Yeah.
And between that and the injury and the receivers not always doing what they're supposed to be doing, I don't really blame him. I think we can predict that over the course of this season, he's not going to be the reason why they lose. But I also don't think you can count on him to like pull games out of a hat. He's not
Yeah.
the way that Russell Wilson used to, right? Where it was like,
Yeah.
you could say the Seahawks won because Russell Wilson did something brilliant. That's not who Geno Smith necessarily is.
Yeah.
And we
And
have to just kind of acknowledge that and embrace it and move on.
Right. And it was only frustrating, I guess, for me because the defense played so well. The defense
Right.
has consistently played some of the best ball we've seen in years.
Yep.
And so I think that's what really makes it more frustrating. I think if the defense had played anything like it had been playing last year, it wouldn't have even been a game, right? So I agree with you in the sense that people had anticipated preseason for this to be a scheduled loss anyway. And so for the people who panic because of this loss, I say to you, didn't you have it as a loss previously? Like, even if you thought this team was going to be great, did you not have the Bengals down as a loss? Most people, I didn't hear a single person of all the predictions I heard preseason that predicted that the Seahawks were going to win this game. And so you're just happy that you were in it. Yes, there were opportunities to win. Is that annoying? Absolutely. But you like you said, you lost to a good team on the road. You're going back home and you have an opportunity to fix it at home. And I think we're at the point where they need to do that. Or panic will be justified, I think.
Right. Well, think about it this way. If I told you before the season that the Seahawks were going to travel 2 hours time difference to Cincinnati, Ohio, and take on a relatively healthy Cincinnati Bengals team where Joe Burrow is back to being Joe Burrow, right? Which is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And he's got his weapons. He's got T. Higgins. He's got, Mixon. He's got a decent line. The defense is playing well. And you're going to travel to Cincinnati and you're going to give up 17 points in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Right? Like the defense is phenomenal.
Yeah.
This defense has, when I look at great NFL defenses, especially great defenses over the years, you're talking about like the Super Bowl Ravens when Trent Dilfer was quarterback, the Bears in the 80s, those sorts of teams. these defenses had swag, right?
Yeah.
These defenses had style, they had a vibe, there was a nastiness, there was a confidence. And I'm not saying that's who the Seahawks are. Even the Niners right now, led by Fred Warner, same sort of deal.
Mm-hmm.
This is what Witherspoon is, and I know I always go back to him, but I'm telling you, this is what Witherspoon and Adams, when he's on the field, that's what they're providing. This defense to hold Cincinnati to 17 points in Cincinnati with a healthy Joe Burrow and a healthy Jamar Chase is a huge, huge accomplishment.
Yeah, it is.
It's huge. So if Abe Lucas gets healthy and DK Metcalf decides to actually run his full route, right? This team is good.
Yeah.
This team is good. So if we move to this Cardinals preview and Sunday's game, when I'm looking at the numbers and I'm looking at this Cardinals team, the Seahawks just need to show up.
Yeah.
They just need to show up. The talent on this Cardinals team, the fact that they have 2 high first-round picks on the way next season with Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. coming out, and Josh Dobbs, who I like as a quarterback, but is not a winning quarterback necessarily, and James Conner, they're probably their best offensive players hurt. This has to be a W for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
They need to just show up. What do you think about this game?
Compete. I'm going to add show up and compete. But otherwise, I agree with you. Because I think that if you sleep on this Cardinals team and you just show up and do nothing else, I do think they can take advantage of that. We saw with Cowboys. Right. So it's possible. But if you show up, like you said, and compete, I agree with you. The talent is, I feel like it's an ocean wide. Right. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know how they've looked as good as they've looked, to be honest. I can't tell if it's competition. It's still early in the year. I can't tell if it's just chip on your shoulder, kind of, hungry play from these guys. And I know the players don't typically tank, but I mean, you still got to execute. And those guys have executed as best they can. Like you said, it doesn't equal winning football. And I think that's just because there's a talent gap between them and most teams in the league. But it's a team that you compete against, but it's a team that, like you said, I expect to win. They need to win this game. If they don't win this game, then it puts into question. Then it puts really big questions.
It's curtains. Honestly, if you're at home, coming off a loss at home against a team that is essentially not trying to win because of next year's draft and the need for a quarterback, and you've got their best player, James Conner, their best offensive player, James Conner, is hurt, right? And all of the success before James Conner's injury was predicated on the running game, right? They invested in Paris Johnson Jr. as a top 10 draft pick in 2023. He's their starting right tackle. Will Hernandez was a former first-round pick as a guard. DJ Humphries isn't a bad left tackle, right? They had a running game that was really the reason why they were able to beat the Cowboys and the reason why they were able to stay in the first couple of games. James Conner goes down and they're done, right? He was the one who was really carrying that team. So if the Seahawks don't win this, I put this on the leaders of the team for not motivating and the coaches for not getting the team up and ready to go. I fully expect, I don't know about a blowout, but every number points to the Seahawks winning this game on Sunday.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The only thing that I really look at and caused me alarm, I sort of hinted at this before, is the offensive line. You do have questionable Evan Brown, which is a big deal because I think he's played very well. In fact, I think he's been one of the better linemen on a very line of misfit offensive linemen. He's been really good. Phil Haynes, who has struggled early, and so I worry about him playing injured when he was already struggling. But Damian Lewis is not on this list, so I like that part. And so hopefully we expect to see him. And then finally, Jake Curhan, who I have advocated for them to bench anyway. He's just complete
turnstile.
Yeah,
he's a turnstile.
I mean, you got to play Jason Peters. Now, from my understanding, Jason Peters is also banged up, but give the guy a shot.
Right.
Seriously. give him a shot, because I can't take any more Forsythe Curhan combos. And actually, Forsythe being the better of the two in pass protection is even more scary.
Right.
It really speaks to how bad this offensive line really has been, because I truly believe if Geno gets just some time in the pocket to go through his reads, and he's a process guy, he's a mental guy, you got to give him a couple seconds. He's not the guy that's going to overcome an offensive line. I've said this before, but Geno goes as the O-line goes.
Right.
And it's just that simple.
Well,
and
you're not able to take advantage of, you've got these three receivers who are immensely talented. We already know Metcalf and Lockett are, all pro caliber, 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns type of receivers, right? We know that already. And JSN has the talent to do it. I don't think anyone's debating that, but you're not going to take advantage of your skill positions, and you're not going to take advantage of this wide receiver talent if Geno Smith is running for his life.
Yep.
And I don't put that on him. If he's running for his life, he's not going to be able to find them, right?
Yeah.
And so you invested this draft capital and all of this money in your wide receivers, but if there's no time, it doesn't matter.
Right.
They can't protect, right? And thankfully, the Cardinals pass rush is not, I'm trying not to say it like Chris Collinsworth, is not they don't have much, right? There's not, you look at their starting defense and their names you don't really recognize. Zaven Collins is probably the most recognizable name on their starting defense outside of Budda Baker. I know Budda Baker, I think, just got activated this today, but they don't generate a ton of pass rush. They don't have a ton of talent, at least name brand talent on that defense. There's no reason why they shouldn't be able to actually protect and allow Geno to have the time to pick apart this defense. I would be stunned. I'd be stunned, and you better have me on next week if they lose, because I will go off. There is no reason.
Yeah, we'll be going off together.
No,
we'll be going off together, because I agree. You're at home. You got to take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a division opponent in a race with which you are trying to compete with the Niners, and in order to do that, you got to win every division game on out. I feel like, in order to kind of bridge that gap, because Niners have been on a roll, and they sort of gave you a break. Yes, it would have been nice to get a win when they got a loss, but again, we're not there, and so the opportunity is still before them. But no, it's pretty straightforward to me. Mm-hmm. You want to see the offense get going, and then you want to see the defense continue to be who they've been, just for consistency.
Play assignment football against this team. The lack of talent on offense, and Marquise Brown and Rondale Moore are fast. But if you just play assignment football, stay in your gaps, stay in your lanes, keep everybody in front of you, this has got to be a W. Let me ask you this, though. Is Witherspoon better than Reek Woolen in coverage already? And are we seeing more balls go to Woolen because he's not quite the player that Witherspoon is?
Yes and yes. I think that was always going to be the case, because Woolen was a project when he came out. He became a phenom, right? So it's fair to say that Witherspoon, especially technique-wise, was always going to be the number 5 overall pick. He was always going to be more advanced as a player than Reek Woolen was. Now, if you want to talk about upside, it's a little different because of Woolen's physique and his just natural physical talent and skill set. But I actually feel like, yes, teams have been picking on him, and they're going to start, because they're not going to want to throw it with Witherspoon. It's actually going to be the opposite effect. People were throwing it with Witherspoon because they didn't want to throw it at Woolen. And Woolen has sort of allowed some plays, except for he sort of woke up in the second half of that Bengals game. And I think part of it, honestly, is I think he got bored. Like, I kind of think it was a little bit of a Richard Sherman effect where, if nobody's ever throwing your way, you just sort of let the underneath stuff go, which is allowed, right, in this defense. He's not in a defensive rookie of the year campaign like he was last year. That's sort of off the table. Do you have that same motivation to really be as sticky in coverage or things like that to bait quarterbacks as often as you did? Probably not. But I think that as people begin to target him more, I think you will see him step up a little bit. I think part of it has just been pure not lack of effort,
Mhm.
lack of interest. And I can't blame him for that because people really haven't been targeting him much, and he's not been really tested. And he's not going to be tested in this game either, but I do think he doesn't want to be the guy who gets, you know, like he doesn't want to be the weak link on the defense either. And there's no reason he should be. So all he has to do is turn one of those into an interception, and
Mhm.
then it makes guys think twice again. Like
You're
that's
gonna go
really all
down.
he needs. All he needs is a pick just to remind people I'm still who I am.
They basically locked up Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd.
Yeah.
His defense, and I asked the question because I know they threw at Woolen more, but I don't see him as a weak link at all. I think this defense is on the cusp of dominance. And I'm not trying to be a homer, right? I'm not trying to look at this Bengals game and say that there were all these great things because I'm hopeful. I'm saying that because that's what I saw. I really think that, you challenge Reek Woolen a couple of times and he's going to pick you off and
Yeah.
you're going to start to look elsewhere, right? This man, I don't know. This team, just every aspect of this team looks like it's on the cusp of being great.
Yeah.
And with the Niners, with Deebo Samuel's injury and Christian McCaffrey's injury, I think the door is slightly open for this team to actually win this division and be great. I really think it's there for them if they want it.
Yeah, I agree. They got to get the offense clicking. And it's really funny because the narrative from what we thought it would be preseason is, quite frankly, the opposite.
Right.
Everyone was concerned about the defense. Everyone thought the secondary would be pretty good, but there was a lot of talk about the defensive line. The defensive line has been really good. I think
Really good.
far surpassed anyone's expectations. Jaron Reed in particular has far outstretched any imagination for what you could even hope, even for those who were optimistic. And I was fairly optimistic going into the season about Jaron. I mean, he's done better than even I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the defense looking so strong, and it really looked like it's building something because it does. You're kind of seeing those building blocks. I think it's just the offense, and like you said, the offense has all the talent in the world, but there are legitimate reasons why you haven't seen this offense in full force. Are there still some problem issues that I worry about, even when they're healthy? Yes, because third down offense was a problem last year. Red zone offense was a problem last year. Not as much of one, but it's still, is there some consistency there? Now, I do think, I do still believe that JSN was the cure for at least the third down offense. Red zone stuff, they still got to figure out. But this is the team to do it against. They are 31st, 32nd ranked in defense, if I'm not mistaken. I really think they're 32nd.
DVOA, they are 31st.
31st, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty bad. So one of the worst defenses in the NFL. You got to take advantage of that offensively. This is what I want to see. As much as I'd love to see another dominant defensive game, still would love to see it. That's opportunity for that. Need to see a offensive rhythm game, specifically putting touchdowns on the board, passing touchdowns. I mean, they've been doing a lot of rushing touchdowns. Like that's great for Kenneth Walker. He struggled with that last year, but you want to see the guys like do it in the air. Take advantage of the core, like you said. I think this could be I suspect this will be a heavier Tyler Lockett game because he's been quiet the past couple of weeks and people have been complaining about JSN, right? Like, where's he been? Okay, you hadn't heard much from Tyler either ever since week 2 in those touchdowns. And it lets you know that it's not them.
They should just, to me, if Budda Baker is healthy, you're going to go the opposite way of Budda Baker, right? If Budda Baker is, because he's an all-pro safety. He's one of the best. Well, he's activated.
He's activated from IR?
Yeah, they activated him today.
Okay.
So if he's playing, I'm looking one way and I'm going the other way. Whatever direction Baker goes, I'm throwing the opposite way. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. This is a get-right game where if you want to get Metcalf and Lockett and JSN, you want to get them off. You want them to each get a touchdown, whatever it is. This is the game to do it. Get them the confidence, get Geno the confidence to be able to do that. And I don't think, despite the struggles with the offensive line, I do think that Geno Smith is going to have the time to actually throw some of those, longer developing routes. The other thing is, I didn't see the play action numbers, but the running game is effective enough, and good enough that even if the line is terrible, you still have an opportunity to run more play action.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have to honor the run. If you want the passing game to produce more, and you want to give Geno Smith the time enough to find his wide receivers, just decide we're going to run 10, 15% more play action than we typically do.
Yeah.
The running game is a threat. Teams do not want to tackle Zach Charbonnet. And, Kenneth Walker, despite his per carry average, is seen right now as a top 10, top 12 running back in the NFL. He's that good.
Do you think Charbonnet plays? Because he is questionable as of right now with a hamstring, and they really didn't play him second half last game, I think, because of that injury.
He's a tough dude. Anybody who I'm just kind of applying this blanketly, but anyone who looks for contact in the way that he does and is trying to prove himself in the way that he does, I think that he's going to do everything in his power to try to play in this game, whether that's the right decision for the team or not. I expect to see him, but I definitely expect a heavy dose of Kenneth Walker Jr. or Kenneth Walker III, I guess. But that running game can create for everybody. And I don't know. I would start with that, see if you can lean on that, and then, like I said, run play action and get that passing game going. This is a get right game. Like I said, the Cardinals, one thing they could do was run the ball, and part of that was James Conner. Now they're leaning on DeMarcado and Keontae Ingram, and they don't have the talent to really beat the Seahawks.
Yeah. If the defense can come out in the beginning and set the tone that you're not going to be able to run on us, I think it's curtains.
Curtains, yeah, for sure. That's curtains.
I think it's curtains.
Don't let me go to this game and have the Seahawks lose. Don't let me go to this game and watch the Cardinals, no names, guys even I don't know, putting pressure on Geno Smith over and over again. I will be so salty. I will be so salty to go to this game and watch the Seahawks lose.
Yeah, for those of you who do not know, Tino has the opportunity to go to the game, and hopefully we can get some perspective from somebody who did go to the game and hopefully go to a game with which they won, because I think it's really hard to get into detail on this one. I just think it's a talent mismatch, and sometimes it comes down to that. I think Geno is a far superior quarterback, and for people who don't think so, I think this is an opportunity for Geno to prove it. And I think he's sort of down on himself from knowing that he could do better. And he talked about that in his pressers, right? About putting that really on him. And so far in his tenure as a Seahawk, I have seen Geno do nothing but bounce back when he has a tough game. Bounce back even when he has a tough moment. Generally speaking, I think people are so upset because they're kind of used to him throwing a pick and then throwing a touchdown, right? Like they're used to him redeeming himself even in the same game. And so maybe that's caused people to lose faith in him, but I still believe that he's going to bounce back and he's going to look a lot better. And even if there is pressure, he'll be able to navigate it better. And even if there is pressure, that we have smart coaches who pull Jay Curhan, for the love of God, please pull that man from the field. Oh right. My goodness, how hard is it?
Well, and you need your receivers to understand, to be able to, if the receivers are locked into when there's pressure on you, and they're able to execute the hot routes correctly, right? And they're running their routes fully, like 100%. That's going to help him a ton. But there's been a lot of, to be honest with you, Tyler Lockett is the one receiver on this team you can count on to do the right thing. DK, outside, I don't even care about the personal foul penalties that people are getting on, but running a full route so you don't get picked off. JSN is a rookie. No matter how smart he is, he may not always do the right thing. Those are the kinds of things that are going to help Geno be Geno, right? Is your receivers running the correct routes, your receivers being like understanding that, when you're getting blitzed, when there's 6 guys rushing and there's 5 guys to protect, that he's got to get the ball out quickly. It's why Mahomes hasn't been great this year. His receivers aren't as good, and they're not connected in the way that a great quarterback needs to be connected with their receivers. You look at someone like Julian Edelman with Tom Brady. Edelman was running like a 4.8, 4.9 40, but they were on the same page, right? And they understood each other. And because they understood each other, they were able to execute in those types of situations where there was pressure on the quarterback, or understand the defense that was being played and being able to sit in zones or recognizing man and taking advantage of it. That's something I don't see DK doing. And it's something that JSN isn't quite, up to speed yet. But Geno Smith is such a cerebral quarterback. He needs his receivers to be able to do that.
Yeah, agreed. 100%. Well, I don't have too much else. This is just a get or done game. There aren't enough stat. The next breakdown, I probably will have some stats in terms of where the Seahawks stand in regards to the league. But I didn't really feel like it was worth it for this game, honestly, just because it's straightforward. All the facts in the world simply just point to the fact that Seahawks need to win. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add in regards to this preview?
I don't. I think that, if the Cardinals are being honest with themselves, they've got their own first-round pick. They've got the Texans' first-round pick. They've got a quarterback in Kyler Murray who was signed to a big contract by basically a previous regime, and they don't necessarily trust. Mm-hmm. I think everything they do is geared towards Caleb Williams. And so they're not motivated you're not going to tell your starters go out there and lose, right? Football doesn't work that way. Otherwise you get hurt.
Yeah.
I don't think that the organization as a whole is motivated to play well this particular season. It's part of the reason why they dealt Isaiah Simmons to the Giants, right? Mm-hmm. Former top 10 pick. I think that everything is there for the Seahawks to go out there and dominate. And I would be stunned, absolutely stunned. Despite the fact that the Seahawks always play down to their competition, I would be stunned if the Seahawks lost in this game. I expect it to be a really positive showing. I don't know that it'll be a blowout necessarily. Are we doing predictions here or no?
Yeah, why not?
To me, this is like a 31-7 Seahawks game. This is.
You just said you don't expect it to be a blowout.
That's not a blowout. 31-7.
That's a blowout.
No, blowout's like 45-3.
No, that's a blowout. That's not. Right. It's not basketball. It's football. It's a blowout.
Nah, it's 31-7 for me. I think that the Seahawks shut down this running game. I think they forced Josh Dobbs. You got Josh Dobbs, who hasn't played started a ton of NFL games, coming into a ruckus, rabid Seahawks stadium where everyone's going nuts, and he doesn't have a ton of skill around him. And the line is okay, but it's not great. I fully expect the Seahawks to dominate this game. I think all they need to do is show up, and then defensively play assignment football, right? Stay in your gap, do what you're supposed to do. The talent on the Arizona offensive side is not enough to be able to score against you as long as you just do your job. So to me, this is the do your job game. Offensive line, run block a little bit. Don't get Geno killed. Let K9 do his thing. Get these wide receivers off a little bit. Defensively, stay in your gaps. Don't let Hollywood Brown behind you. Don't let Rondale Moore run those crossing routes and go nuts. And you're solid. Just tackle, right? Tackle, rush the passer a little bit, do a little bit of blocking. Seahawks going to be straight. 31-7 Seahawks. You heard it here first.
I'm going to go 31-17.
Okay.
17. A little bit 17.
Okay.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I don't think they're going to come out. I've been talking about that lately. They've been more aggressive in their blitzing and things like that. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that.
They're going to play your favorite defense.
They're not going to do that. I'm telling you, they are not going to do that. And as long as the offense can hold up their end, I'm not going to be mad at it. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, try to beat them in coverage. You can allow some underneath stuff, but I think that will allow for some field goals to make it competitive. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it'll allow for a lot of touchdowns.
Get that dub and get out.
Yeah. So that's sort of why I expect. I do expect the offense to get back on the right track. Mm-hmm. And I expect the defense to still do its job. Maybe not to look as phenomenal as they have been, but it would be nice for the offense to sort of carry the load a bit, because you want a team that can win both ways. Yep. You want a team that can win by scoring when they need to, and you want a team that can win defensively when needed to. That just speaks to the strength of the team. And if they're alternating, taking turns, then that's all the better. Of course, you'll eventually need that game when you got to put it all together, but it ain't this one. This one ain't that. Nope. This one ain't that. So
you could have just the special team show up and still win.
You be getting ahead of yourself.
I'm just trying to say ahead of yourself. The Seahawks are a better team. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna guarantee this one too. Don't let me.
All right, Joshua Dobbs, let him go against Michael Dixon. That's not gonna be great. I want you to tell the people where they can find you, what you got going on.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Tino Jr. 20. I host the Mariners Cast. It's Ethos Mariners, ETHOS MARINERS. I am doing Mariners Cast twice a week during the off season. Right now, I'm looking position by position, talking about what I think, where the Mariners stand, what the grade is for the previous season, what the minor leagues look like at that position, free agents, possible trades. It is a slower time, but it's been a lot of fun. I'm also on Twitter posting a bunch about this crazy 2023 statistical database that I'm building, lots of fantasy stats, that sort of thing. But you can find me on Twitter, listen to the Mariners Cast, and hopefully you can find me at the stadium on Sunday at minimum at a bar around the stadium, watching this football game, watching this Seahawks 31-7 victory over the Arizona Cardinals.
Nice. Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Ethos Seahawks. We'll have a lot more up this week about just sort of a breakdown of the game. We really want to kind of evaluate how the Seahawks look as a team compared to the rest of the league and sort of what takeaways we can make from that. Now, of course, I'm hoping to do that off of a W instead of a loss. But either way, that's what we're expecting to do, because I think we have a big enough sample size to do that with. So be sure to follow us if you don't already. If you're listening on YouTube, be sure to give us a comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're listening on iTunes, give us a 5-star review. We're out here trying hard, man. Appreciate you guys' support. And as always, we're out. Go Hawks.